Airline stocks posed for upside growth heading into year end. That is according to Bank of America. Several airlines recently lifting their forward guidance, among them JetBlue. The airline citing decreased gas prices and increased July bookings as tailwinds. And this comes after a challenging year for the company involving a $2.75 billion debt sale. That led Moody's to cut the airline to junk. Charged with turning the company around, JetBlue's new CEO, Joanna Geraghty, is joining us live at the Skift Global Forum. Joanna, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time for us. I know that you're 7 months into the role, but I want to talk about the challenges that the airline has had, specifically when it comes to capacity. I know you're planning on cutting capacity in the back end of this year, competitors ramping that up. How are you thinking about the path back to profitability from about 5 years ago while you're still scaling back some of the operations in the company?
Sure, thanks for having me. We just launched our Jet Forward program, which has 4 pillars to success that we believe will get us well back on our path to profitability, focusing on reliable and caring service, best East Coast leisure network, products and perks customers love, and a secure financial future. We obviously have some capacity headwinds. We operate a number of our aircraft with Pratt Whitney GTF engines, so that's definitely downward pressure on capacity over the next few years. But we're focused on really executing to our strategy and focusing on our inherent strengths to bring us back to profitability.
You mentioned the Pratt Whitney engine, so I want to follow on the impact of that, the aircraft groundings due to those investigations. And these are some brand new planes. That's a huge challenge, I would imagine, for the company. What is the timeline looking like right now for recovery on that? And any update to any financial retribution that JetBlue is seeking from them?
Sure. So right now we have on average 11 aircraft on the ground. Next year that will rise to mid to high teens, and we expect, over the next few years for it to be somewhere around that number. We're working with Pratt & Whitney. They're an important business partner and an important part of JetBlue's future, and working with them to ensure that we receive the right level of compensation to reflect the impact that this is having to our forward-looking capacity.
Joanna, can you give us a better sense of what you're seeing from a demand standpoint? You've really hit the ground running since you've taken over as CEO. You talk about some of the headwinds, some of the challenges facing JetBlue. Obviously, it's not just JetBlue, but you take a look at a lot of your competitors, your rivals, they're up against those odds as well. Do you see that improving? And I guess talk to us about that timeline for further improvement.
Sure. So as you think about what we guided to about 2 weeks ago, some of that reflected the demand environment. Supply is obviously a bit elevated, but we have a large presence in the Latin region, and we saw capacity moderating there, which is important. It's still elevated, but we saw some, I think, positive improvements from that angle. And then obviously the fall trough is challenging. We've pulled nearly 10% capacity out of the fall trough. To try to help boost our performance. But the peaks and the troughs post-COVID are definitely much more acute, and we're taking a number of self-help measures to moderate some of that impact.
Since you mentioned LATAM, I do want to follow on that because there was a significant impact on the share price given some of the headwinds that you just mentioned on LATAM, which is one of your biggest revenue drivers. What is the single biggest thing that you did after that to change the path forward for demand coming out of LATAM?
Yeah, LATAM was largely associated with industry capacity ebbing and flowing, and it's a cyclical industry. And, as you look at where airlines put capacity, they'll rush to one area and then it'll moderate over time. And so we're focused on just ensuring that JetBlue's flying to the places where our brand is strong and where we make the most money and where it reflects the nature of the strategy that we're trying to execute to. We're very, very strong in the East Coast. We're doubling down on our East Coast leisure network. We've announced a number of new cities, Islip, Manchester, New Hampshire, and then continuing to grow Boston, as well as some of the surrounding locations like Bradley and whatnot. And that's a core strength for JetBlue. LATAM is also a core strength. We're announcing a number of new markets opening up there as we go into 2025. And, as we hope capacity appears to be moderating, and, that hopefully that trend continues, but it remains a stronghold for JetBlue and a very important part of our network.